microphone now.
So guys, as you pass around the yellow bucket, anyway, did you enjoy Juan? Wasn't she amazing? Yeah, she's such an amazing person, Juan, and the work she's been doing in the last year or so, and such a help to me. So thank you, Juan. Yeah, well, my name's Alan. I'm one of your hosts tonight, and welcome to another acoustic night at the barn. You see, obviously you haven't been here before because you'd be used to what we do. How many people have been here before? Nicola, you yeah. Well, this is a good reason why I'm going to tell you what I'm saying next. Well, first of all, the order of tonight, we have 2 sets, coffee break in the middle, okay? So that's what's coming up. But we do a concert here once a month. You'll see posters around, you'll see little flyers on your seat. They're supposed to be taken home of you, those, by the way, not just to look at. Okay, so we do a concert roughly here once a month, and we'd love you guys to come back again. We've got a full house that can come back to us again. This is amazing. So my objective is to get you to sign up to our mailing list or to take our Facebook page. And on your seat, you've got a little QR code there. That'll bring you straight up to sign up to either of those. So could you please do that? Who's going to do that? Nobody. I'm not very just. Do you understand my accent? Okay, guys. We'd love it. What I'm trying to say is we'd love you to come back again. We do this once a month roughly here. If you go to help with a QR code as well, it gives you a list of all the concerts we've coming up. You can buy tickets on there. There's some posters up here as well. And on the next concert is on the, let me look and see this for myself, Wednesday the 20th of March. It's a duo called Sweet Sorrows. They're from Ireland, from my homeland. I don't understand them at least. Basically, they're Celtic Americana roots. They're very good. They have loads of albums out. They've toured the world. They're really worth coming. And you know, folks, in the last couple of months, we have sold out concerts here. All tickets gone a few weeks before the concert starts. I keep telling people here, buy the tickets or you're going to be sold out. And then I got people phone me up in the last week. And the tickets, no, I told you last month to buy them. So you guys come along, buy these. Sweet Sorrows, come back. Don't be disappointed, come along and hear them. Who's going to buy a ticket for Sweet Sorrows? Nobody. I think I'm going to go home. Okay. Never mind, we'd love you to come back again, so do your best just to keep in touch with us and what's going on. We'll try to get our guests along once in a wonder here. We might do a surprise one, so if you don't, you'll turn up here and you won't know if you don't come along and do things. I don't know why they'll give you to doing that. Anyway, we're so privileged tonight to have with us a world poet slam champion and a TED talking poet. I'm reading that directly from his press release. He's quoted as the greatest performer on earth by BBC Radio 1. So he has a lot to live up to tonight. And he's reached millions of people around the world. And basically, I would like to say thank you for coming along to us our little humble venue tonight. So thank you. And in return, I'd like you to give a massive welcome to Harry Baker.
Thank you so much. Everyone all right? This first poem is called Impossible. I wrote it for an event in Bristol around poetry and climate change. I think with climate change they figured that scientists have a go, that politicians get involved. Hadn't quite cracked it, time to bring out the big guns. On the day that I finished this poem, it was announced that we were going into lockdown for the first time, so having a poem about feeling overwhelmed by a massive existential crisis really came into its own. And since then I've held on to this poem for many different things. It's called Impossible, and as a mathematician I think impossible's got a very clear definition. As a poet it feels like more of a grey area. For me that's where the fun is. So it's me trying to take inspiration from the world around us and the number of times it has surpassed our expectations. So what right do we have to do? I'm finding it too easy. to tell myself things are too hard. When facing the end, that it's too late to even make a start. But if we take impossible to mean that we didn't have a chance, we have lost sight of how unlikely it was we would get this far. The way the single fish outwits the shark by sticking with its school. The way the crescent moon outspins its dark to once again be full. Even winter, given long enough, begins to lose its cool. That which was once exceptional, and barely registers at all. Flamingos and giraffes like they were drawn by a child. We can't begin to comprehend all of the ways this world is wild. None of them asked if they were possible before they came to be. None of them have ceased to exist by being told they're make-believe. The bug who finds it all too much and tries to shut off everything. To have recovered and then summoned up the strength to stretch its wings, the snake so full of itself that it cannot help but shed its skin. Or how instead of death, the hedgehog went to bed and slept till spring. To think that Earth exists at this specific distance from the sun, down to the angle of the axis on which everything is spun, the fact that trees happen to breathe that which we need inside our lungs would all seem impossible. And it had already been done. We are impossible to everyone who's ever gone before. And everyone who's yet to come will push impossible some more. Just as indeed the do's we did outdo the don'ts we didn't. So everything's impossible until it isn't. The thought of rivers changing course before somebody gave it down. Or that the tide might turn from shore before a line's drawn in the sand. We cannot know how far our actions go, the impact they might have. Sometimes the only thing that we can do is to do what we can. Just as the night is at its darkest when it's introduced to day. Just as the dry is at its harshest in the breath before it rains. It's easy enough to believe in something when it's all okay, but it's when times are at their hardest that it's hardest to have faith. Yet when the light begins to fade, that's when we need it the most. It's by surviving day to day that we see seasons evolve. If there was never any doubt, there'd be no reason for hope could be too late to do anything. It's sure as hell as if we don't. And I am tired of that doom and gloom and self-fulfilling prophecy. I am trying to find room to bloom and self-fulfill the opposite. When it's an act of revolution to try stay remotely positive, there's nothing wishy-washy about opting to be optimists. Whether a brighter future is possible, we may not truly know. But the first step towards that future is imagining it so. So as indeed the do's we did outdo the don'ts we didn't, so it remains impossible until it isn't. And when it's over, and we're no more than old bones within the ground, still the soil knows to sow its seeds from what is broken down, what is lost is always lost, until the moment is found, and these things only ever go one way. And let's be turning around. We are so constantly surrounded that it's easy to forget this world was built upon impossible that has not stopped us yet. So yes, indeed, the do's we did outdo the don'ts we didn't. It only stays impossible until it is. Thank you so much. So yes, even though I'm a poet, I do this full time. I love what I do. When I was at school, one of my favourite subjects was maths, and I went to university to study maths. And when I did, I was given the option of doing maths with a year abroad. So could we turn that down slightly? It's all right. And when I did that, I lived in Germany for a year. And while I was there, I decided to try and learn some German. So I heard that it was very popular. And as a poet and a mathematician, German was just the best language ever. Because on one level, it is very logical, it's very consistent. Once you know the rules, you can apply them throughout, but also there's lots of creativity in amongst that. And one of the ways that this manifests is that in German, you can often just stick existing words together to make new words, and people will know what you're talking about because they can deduce it logically. And one of my favourite ways I found this out was the German word for hand is Hande, the German word for shoe is Schuhe, and the German word for glove is Handschuhe. It's a bit like a shoe you put in the hand. I thought this was amazing. I went to my flatmates, this is incredible, you guys have got hand shoes. And they said, yes, we know what gloves are. Do not have them in England yet. Friends who are learning a language at the same time, we will message each other our favourite words as we discover them. One of my favourite words I came across in German is the German word for a tortoise is a Schildkröte, which translates as a shield toad, sort of like a frog with a shield on its back, the Captain America off the amphibian world. And when I found this out, I was so excited. I looked at what a snail was in German, so really hoped it would be called a shield worm or a shield slug. It turns out the German word for snail is just Schnecke, which is fun to say, was even more fun. The German word for snail is Schnecke, the German word for slug is Nacktschnecke, which translates as a naked snail. Saurus slug, they're pretty similar, just this one's naked. I loved it. Back to my house, this is amazing. You've got snails, you've got naked snails. And he said, yes, we know what slugs are. Stop bringing them to the house. And then that learning new language became a fun thing to do. It became a playful act because of that. I was willing to put more time into it. I started looking for these words wherever I could. Another one I found more recently, the German word for squirrel is Eichhornchen, which translates as an oak croissant. Yes, please. And I started to invent some of my own words by just sticking existing words together. What was amazing was they'd come out of my head, but people knew what I was talking about. And where I lived in Germany, there was one particularly fantastic Middle Eastern food place that did very tasty falafel. And I found out that the German word for falafel is falafel. So far, so good. But the German word for spoon is Löffel. It's a very specific spoon you only ever used to eat a falafel with. And this falafel spoon in German would be called Ein Falafelöffel. So last time I was in Germany, I wrote this poem. It's called Falafelöffel. It's about a guy called Phil. It starts off in German, I'm trying to as it goes. So chance for you to join in. That part is also in German. Made a lot of sense in Germany. A lot more fun for me, not in Germany. Phil ist voll. Die Nacht ist gut verlaufen. Phil sieht ein Geschäft und fragt, was sie verkaufen. Which means Phil is full. The night has gone well. Phil sees a shop and he asks what they sell. Falafelöffel. Falafel. It's falafel spoons. For spoonfuls of falafel, was Falafelöffel? Falafel, wie Falafelöffel? Falafel. Now Phil doesn't speak German, so he's left a little baffled. So is this fella, Phil that falafel. In a falafel raffle, he would snaffle all the tickets. He always answers in affirmative to offers of falafel, even if he saw falafel awful if he didn't. For us, it might feel effortless to live a life falafel-less. But Phil effervesces as he gets his falafel fix, so Phil was ever to be offered Löffel of falafel. He said, yes, despite not knowing what the falafel is. For Phil, a life of love and laughter will have a falafel after. So it's yes, despite not knowing what the falafel is. If a falafel for Löffel, Phil awful. So it's just as bad at knowing what the falafel is. If fluffy falafel is often iffy, if he's honest still, it's just as bad at knowing what the falafel is. If half a little, the figure only lethal. When we leave him a message for his kids saying yes, despite not knowing what the falafel is, or it's just as bad at knowing what the falafel is. So when I say, wie viel Falafel ist zu viel Falafel, which means how much falafel is too much falafel, could you reply in unison in your best German accents? Viel Falafel ist zu viel Falafel. Easy, right? And that means 4 spoonfuls of falafel is too much falafel. I have done the research. I'm just trying to spread the word. So, repeat after me. Fear. Löffel. Falafel ist zu viel Falafel. Wie viel Falafel ist zu viel Falafel? Wie viel Falafel ist zu viel Falafel? Honestly, it's not bad. It's not quite wunderbar. So, 2 tips to take this to the next level. Okay, tip number 1, if you can, very simply try and sound a bit more German. Whatever that means to you. When I lived there, they won the Football World Cup. It was the first time the men's team had won it since East and West Germany were divided. This incredible, euphoric, unifying moment for the nation. The final whistle went, they took to the streets, they partied all night long, they'd all been cleaned up by 7 AM the next morning. That mixture of euphoria and efficiency is what responses, the way that we would channel that is I would ask, are you ready? Instead of saying yes, just shout back at me the German one for yes, which is yeah. That will carry us through, I promise. The second thing you can do is what I used to do in language classes. If I was asked a question by the person at the front and I did not know what the answer was to the question, or even what the question really meant, I would just repeat the question back to them with enough confidence that hopefully it would somehow also be the answer to the question. The only time that has ever worked is, ça va? Ça va. However, it is like me going, how much falafel is too much falafel? And you replying, how much falafel is too much falafel? Which is obviously one of the core questions of our times. We'll give it a go. Are you ready? Are you ready? Wie viel Falafel ist zu viel Falafel? 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 Wie viel falafel is zu viel falafel. If it left him on his deathbed with a message for his kids saying, yes, despite not knowing what the falafel is, or it's just despite not knowing what the falafel is, viel Falafel. Die Nacht war gut Falafel. Will so eingeschärft und effektiv für sie verkaufen. Falafel. 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 Falafel, ja, falafel. Falafel. You've got to make an effort when you travel. I love doing this. Pretty much everything I write is with an aim to share it in a room with people. And that meant that when lockdown hit and that wasn't possible, it was very difficult to try and find alternatives. And clap emojis don't quite hit the same way. But one thing that I did is my brother was a graphic designer, and we tried to put on an art exhibition that people could access without having to be near other people. And the inspiration for that was that we both had a background of maths, even though I now do poetry and design. We decided to look at these creative constraints in quite mathematical ways and see if that could inspire new work. And one of the things we came across was something called a univocalism, which is a type of poem where you are only allowed to use one vowel. You're allowed to use it more than once, otherwise a very short poem. And you're allowed to use all of the consonants, otherwise it's just a sound. And so this poem is a univocalism using the letter I, and it's called Ingrid's, and it takes place in a sort of school disco. I'm going to try and remember it, I've got it there, because with other poems, little trick of the trade, if you forget what you're saying, you can just sort of wing it and get away with it. But with this poem, because it's so specific, you will be able to tell very quickly if I've gone off piste. And so, any more context? Because of the language constraints, you sort of have to be creative. There are 3 parts in this poem, parts 1, 2 and 3, but I just want you to know that those parts are written in Roman numerals, so they are technically all ours. And also, at one point, I have to try and sort of depict old age, and I pick a number, and that's purely because it's the only number that has I in it. It's not that old, and I don't want to offend anyone. Again, that will make sense. St. Philip's, 6 p.m. I'm glimpsing vivid, dimly lit pics. Twinkly lights with shiny bits hiding this virgin birth, Christ dying, spirit rising triptych is vibing. Mr. Smith is spinning discs. Mrs. Sills brings nibbly bits. Crisps. Dips. Pick and mix. Mini fish and chips. Lidl's pink stripy rings. Fizzy drinks. I'm thinking this is sick. I spy with my tiny iris. Ingrid is Finnish, I think. Whitish trim, Viking skin, stylish kicks, I'm in bits. Thing is, Ingrid's in 6C, I'm in 6B. This schism is big. Think Bill Scripps, try tripling it. My skin is tingling, why is this shirt itchy? This isn't simply shy, I'm breaking it. I timidly try, hi. I'm sipping my milk, slick. It slips, I'm livid. My iris is filling with drips, it stings. Ingrid chips in, why cry? It's spilled milk. I wittily zing, it's my milk. Right? I'm dying. Wishing invisibility hits, minimizing this cringing fit. Still, Ingrid is kind. Insisting I trick my mind, Ingrid grins. Try this. Mr. Smith is killing her. In this jiffy, Ingrid is singing. It's tricky, I stick this rhyming with this timing tricky. Ingrid's lyricism is iffy, still it is brimming with spirit. I find I'm smiling. I dry my skin. I'm chiming in. Tricky, 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 tricky. Mr. Smith is still blitzing. Limp Biscuit, pink, NSYNC, City High, Chic, Chip Diddy Chip, Lil Kim. Ingrid spits Will Smith's Jiggy With It with Vim. I'm chiming in with If I'm dying in my kin, I think in this sky I will kickflip. Ingrid thinks this is silly, still I'm giddy. My grin is sky high, thinking this night's limit is infinity. My mind is spinning, I'm slightly dizzy. DJ Smithy brings it in with Billy J's tinkling riffs. Lighting shifts, slight dimming, twinning is implicit, it's simply physics. I find this thrilling. Will this bring my first kiss? I'm chilled still if Ingrid is thinking it. Big if. I'm tilting in, lips inching. Ingrid is high-fiving it is. I'm chilled still. Ingrid sighs, Ricky, I'm flying this night. I did my trip with St. Philip's, my British visit will finish. Or I smirk, Ingrid is finished. I'm in crisis. My night in shining whimsy is splitting. I spy Ingrid's iris brimming. I chip in with why cry? Is it spilt milk? Ingrid sniffs. This timing is... Instinct brings this psychic link. I chip in. Tricky? Ingrid grins. Tricky, 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 tricky. I'm smiling. Ingrid, this night will stick in my mind till I'm 66. With wrinkly skin. Spindly limbs. Virility dwindling. Visibly dribbling. I'm so sorry. Ingrid's gift isn't my first kiss, it's this insight. If I'm crying, I'll try trick my mind with iffy lyrics. Mr. Smith spins his vinyl disc. Night night, Ingrid. Night night, Ray. 2. Skipping, fiddly, middling bits. 3. I'm 30. Big city, living slick-ish. Jim is insisting it's drinks night. I'm sinking this big fish dick, bring it in. It isn't my thing still, if Jim's twisting my limbs, I'm in. It's in this hip district. Dingy whilst shiny chic. St. Philip's it isn't. Mr. Smith is missing. This DJ is spinning fish insipidly. I'm thinking, swift gin, chin chin, Irish pip pip in my digs by twilight. Will Smith film night. MIB, Hitch, MIB2. King Rich. Whilst I'm splitting, I flinch. My skin is prinkling. I'm fizzing with this third sight. I spy with my tiny iris. Whitish trim. Viking skin. Stylish kicks. It isn't, is it? Ingrid. You got there, thank you so much. So I partly share that to give you some context for why I was approached for this next poem. I think Alan originally saw me at Spring Harvest, which is a festival I performed at last year, and it led to my favourite commission that I've ever been given. I performed a love poem about prime numbers at this Christian festival, and those two facts combined meant that someone got in touch with me who runs a software company on the Isle of Wight, and this software company is of note because they were the first people to ever use postcodes in online data in the UK, and they've dubbed themselves the postcode people, and they were having a party to celebrate 60 years of being the postcode people, and they asked me if I could write a poem. And it is a family-run business, and they're kind of guided by their Christian values. They give lots of money to charity. The way they work is very kind of ethically driven. And so that meant the specific brief that I was given was, can you write us a poem that makes postcodes sexy and that also reflects the glory of God? And I've never felt more qualified to occupy the middle of the Venn diagram in my life. Absolutely. absolutely thrilled, and so I got very nerdy with it. This is what I came up with. This is called an ode to the postcode. Oh, and also one other thing. I don't think I need to clarify this, but I just want to be 100% sure. This company is called AFD, and they are a software company in the Isle of Wight. And the other AFD is a sort of German right-wing political party, Alternative for Deutschland. And they could not be further apart. I do just want to say that, in my experience, by which I mean I've no experience with the German far right, but on the left, the lovely postcode people, that is the AFD that I espouse. I didn't need to say it, didn't I? It's fine. Some heroes wear capes, some come dressed in lycra. Some swing on webs once they're bitten by spiders. Often the heroes are ones that we don't know. Here's an ode to the unsung hero, the postcode. First trialed in Norwich, they mustered up history, imparting knowledge with such specificity. No need for sonnets or colourful imagery, just alphanumeric, pure rugged efficiency. It starts with the area code. You might pop to Preston for the good PR. Or choose to chuck Coventry on your CV. If you live in Darlington, keep it on the DL or head to Huddersfield for life in HD. If you work in IT, take a trip to Ipswich, an IP address gives you all that you need. Or if you're from Belfast and you need to Belfast, I can guarantee your phone line comes from BT. The next digits give you the district. Like if central Newcastle is your fixed abode, you can always say yes to is NE1 home. Or catch me walking round Hayes in a daze for sure, catching deja vu, I've seen you before. Well, this happens all of the time. Does a German reluctant to solve workplace conflict in Outer Herefordshire go and see HR? 9. Imagine if Frodo had known Mordor's postcode, the Eagles could have dropped him off and then flown home. There's no place like home for Dorothy and Toto, who could have helped shown where the yellow brick road goes. Oh brother, where art thou could have ended quicker if that question's answered with letters and digits. Even the Titanic would have been less tragic with accurate geolocation. It's like we're all Disney princesses white as snow, while up to 7 small characters can guide us home. They may not see through walls or have super speed, they just help you get to where you need to be. And all of this founded on strong Christian values. Enacted in everything that they do. As they've given to hundreds of organisations, there's power in people, and postcodes do. Jesus cleanses the sins of whoever confesses. They cleanse your database of duplicate addresses. Jesus fed the thousands and walked onto water. They validate thousands of emails, and that's also important. We know the Lord works in mysterious ways, and yet through him and through them there's millions raised. Long may his work continue through AFD. So he just helps us get to where we need to be. Some heroes can fly, some are quick as a flash. Some become weirdly obsessive with bats. But often the heroes are the ones that we don't know. This goes out to the unsung hero, the postcode. Thank you so much. Everyone all right? Yeah. Wonderful. This next poem is a love poem. When I started writing, I thought love had to be this massive epic thing that comes and sweeps everything out of its path, and it can be that, but I've learned more recently that it is also the consistent, everyday nature of love that is as important, if not more important than that. So I was trying to reflect that side of it too, and this poem is simply called It's Not the Flowers, it's the weeding in the mud with you. It's not the champagne, it's that cuppa in that favourite mug you use. It's not the chocolate, okay, yes it is, but not just 1 or 2, it is becoming Bruce Bogtrotter and Augustus. It's voting frozen pizza over fancy grub with you, because some nights nothing can beat a slice of comfort. It's knowing anything I eat will include some for you. You're not hungry, but you might just have a couple spares. It's not the dreaming, it's the waking up with you. I want to be here long enough to gather dust with you. It's us agreeing that romantic bards need bubbles too. Yet now I see maybe the snorkel was too much. And yes, the submarine and rubber ducks came out a touch too soon, and yet the fundamental truth is I have fun with you. It's watching crappy films because that's what you want to do. Then on the nights you're gone finding I want to watch them too. It's knowing if it came to it I had option to, I would not change a single thing of what I've got with you. It's not the dreaming, it's the waking up with you. I want to be here long enough to gather dust with you. For us, love isn't in the air, that is just where we found it. All this is built upon what we have done to ground it. It's not the spark when we first met, it is the lifetime built around it. It's by small amounts that mounds and mountains and mountains. I need not justify, adjust, or fear I'm judged by you. Such is the glorious consistency of loving you. My heart's not skipped a beat, it just constantly thuds for you. Such is the everyday magnificence of loving you. It's not something we fell into so much as stumbled through. It's the spectacular normality of loving you. It's not the dreaming. It's the waking up with you. I want to be here long enough to gather dust. Thank you so much. So I wrote that poem for my wife Grace, and I put it online, and I'm now big in the sort of wedding celebrant Facebook groups, which is so lovely. It's meant that there are people who have told me that they've had their read at the wedding, or have been sent videos of people reading it, and it's just reached places I couldn't possibly imagine, and that's wonderful. But I tell you all of that to just let you know that that is not Grace's favourite poem of mine. This poem is Grace's favourite poem of mine, and I don't want to tell her that she's wrong, but I don't know how that can possibly be true. So I would like to share it with you just to check that I'm not the only one who's confused by this. The name's Bond, James Bond. Bond is both my last and my first name. For some reason, when I introduce myself to people, they think I am repeating my surname. But if that were the case, then I would have to say, the name's Bond, Bond James Bond. I used to introduce myself to people as Bond Bond, then they would mishear and repeat back to me Bond Bond. And I would say no thanks, I'm sweet enough, and they wouldn't get it. Then I'd have to explain that it's a bit like Neville Neville. Then I'd have to explain that that was Gary Neville's dad. Then I'd have to explain that that was Phil Neville's brother. Then I'd have to explain who Phil Neville was. Because the footballer looks a bit like the famous poet Harry Baker. I thought it might make things easier to start using my middle name to see if I could separate the two bonds with a James, but now I wish I paid attention in my A-level chemistry, because it turns out separating bonds requires a lot of energy. I guess it could be worse. It reminds me of the time I ordered a martini and, whilst making small talk, mentioned that my friend Shane cannot stand. Wonderful. I'd love to share one more poem with you, and then we'll have a break. I have got some books with me, so if you want to have the James Bond poem all to yourself, that's really endorsed. And then I'll be back in the second half. Thank you so much for being here. I'm having a lovely time. I hope you're right tonight. So this poem came about because in Advent a couple of years ago, I was asked to write something on the theme of comfort and joy, and not even thinking it would end up in the poem, but just for kind of preparation, I started to make a list of things that brought me joy in my day-to-day life. And at the time, that was something that I found quite difficult to do. And even that act in itself became such a rewarding thing that the final poem just ended up being a list of things that brought me joy. And I loved it so much doing it that year that I did it again this last year. And so I've kind of got both here, and I'm just going to create a little bit of a mashup for you. There's things that bring me joy. Deciding to make an advent calendar of crisps for my friend. Deciding to make an advent calendar of crisps for myself. Crisps. Stroop waffles, super noodles, leftovers for breakfast. How proud my teenage self would be of how often my adult self wears trackies. that reading, sleeping, and writing poems can never be a waste of time. Clearing my inbox, turning my phone off, being out of breath, crying, especially in films. Watching the Lionesses win the Euros, musical bingo, Only Connect, Taskmaster, Ted Lasso, my yellow willies, a decent WhatsApp group, my nieces. The time on a mailing list for a company that makes reusable baking parchment, simply because I bought a small amount 5 years ago. The email precisely once a year to see if I need any more, and I still don't because the original batch is just so reusable. That time I did a wee that lasted longer than a minute. The fact that I timed it. The thought that at least some of you might go away and try the same. Margate. Writing a poem about my favourite sandwich from my local cafe in March. Getting paid for that poem in the form of 50 free sandwiches. 9 months later, that turning out to be more reliable currency than the British pound. How hard it was to think of things when I started this list versus how hard it was to stop once I got going. The thought that at least some of you might go away and try the same. The fact that the start of this year was possibly the lowest I've ever felt, and yet here I am. Going into any Turkish barber and asking for the special. Sometimes it involves a relaxing hot towel. Sometimes it involves having your ear hair singed off by a flaming engine. Once it involved having lolly sticks dipped in molten wax shoved up my nostrils and being told not to scream. Reframing the fact that I often wake up in the night as just being so good at sleeping and get it done quicker than everyone else. The Bear, Lupin, Miss Marvel, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, sex education. Asking friends in America if they have sex education over there, forgetting to explain that we meant the TV show. Following it up with the phrase, honestly, it's amazing, you just fall in love with all of the characters. The Mission Impossible films. That the combination of joy and grief in my recent poems has led to me being described as the Barbenheimer of the poetry world. That it was me who described myself as that. I'm hoping it catches on. That someone has named their pet snake after me. That snake is called Harry Snaker. That I forgot that this had happened until my neighbour reminded me, and then I got to experience it all over again. That I thought I used up all my favourite things last year, but this year's list was easier than ever. Getting a new duvet. My local queer coffee company. My friend Helen. Watching things with people who care about them. Caring about people. Letting people care for me. Being prayed for. Being held. Being warm. Being vulnerable. Being open. Opening a packet. So much. We will have a quick break now. If you want to have a drink, get some fresh air, go to the toilet, all of the above. I will be there. I've got some books if you want to come have a look. Otherwise, if you just want to come and say hi, that's free and very welcome. I love you, so please don't leave. And we'll be back in a little while. And stay safe. Cheers.
Collection thing go. I think the seats. These are not quite 66. I said I'd bring it again, but I You? All right. Yeah, yeah.
Are you still?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, man. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I go to Carman School.
I think so. I'm working for school now.
Are you? What are you doing in school?
I'm a teacher.
Year 4, year 5, 9.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And this year, and we've got our daughter.
Okay, not inside.
It's quite well, you know, I think it's a good the whole time last year was like this year, I think it's fun.
Obviously, your reputation with the Where's the school?
Grounding.
Margaret. Primary school head teacher.
Yeah.
Just wait.
So I'm still
Oh, that's lovely.
Yes, we did. Well, we played that with my children. Is it in the Tree Traffic?
Yeah, an old chapel.
Yes.
They gave it to bank.
Yes. Just after they renovated, they have a gig.
It's incredible, isn't it? It's great.
Yep. Funny looking down again.
Oh, that's really good.
Well, that's all going well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think
Yes, I work on it. That's quite cool.
yeah. Oh, good. I'm really glad. Nice to see you. I did as well. I'm really sorry. Did we just like that?
No, well, we were sitting here in the shade of trees. We only got standing tickets. Oh, you're looking at that. We got that, and somebody was really kind to us, and they got worse opinions.
Yeah, that's good. Your nephew?
Yeah, he's oh dear. Possibly get
That doesn't sound right, that sounds pronounced like empty. Even so, if you ever wants to in the ropes, now we don't
Have you heard of any music?
yeah.
The cast plus stuff. I'm going to be a record by Tuesday. What's the building?
So this year we're saying this
Something like a camper van, because this thing is you are in the middle of nowhere.
And then lockdown up to you.
I think, given that's something that it is,
Like going to Sky on my bucket.
Sometimes you guys get sick there. Yeah, it's also there. And then officers you go to work and see so what we used to do is buy them they're always the same.
my neighbours had a
But now, since lockdown, the ones who are really keen in some rates during lockdown, they used to have done online stuff. They drink kids partner bigger forums online simulators. Some of them really do really big formats of them getting the music which is really good. Like that's a big one, just to get the music out there. Because the year. Well, I think I asked when it's super serious. That's
One of them signing red on the way back from
We're good to go at the back?
Yeah.
Everyone alright? Yeah. Thank you so much. This first poem is a list of achievable New Year's resolutions. I wrote it because last year I revealed that I've been doing secret press up this whole time. And initially it was quite easy to do one press up when the person you share a house with isn't looking, but it quite quickly became very impractical because what would happen is that we would go to bed and I suddenly remember that I had 45 press ups. So I just need to check that the door is locked and then go downstairs and then come back sort of sweating and panting. Very sustainable. So because of that, this year I've set more realistic expectations, and this is 20 achievable goals for 2020. 1. To have an unexpectedly amazing holiday. 2. To drop something and then catch it again before it hits the ground. 3. To decide what my favourite shape is. Pretty sure it's going to be a hexagon. 4. To work out the perfect amount of time to cook an Aldi hash brown in the oven. The packet says 18 to 20 minutes, but I would like to crack the exact time. 5. To tell someone what I do without it sounding like an apology. 6. To find a new musical act I love, or rather to let them find me. 7. To turn a sneeze into an impromptu beatbox session. 8. To pack swimming trunks on the train from Margate to London and beyond. To change into those trunks in the toilet on the return journey, so that I can see how quickly I can sprint from the station to the sea. 9. To buy more drinks for friends and to let friends buy more drinks for me. You might think that these two would cancel each other out, but it is in fact a net gain of both drinks and time spent with friends. 10. To give up on a book I'm not enjoying. To remind myself that the characters will not take it personally. That if I am 4/5 of the way through and just trying to get into it, the chances are it might not be for me. 11. To cuddle a giant rabbit. I last did this on the 30th of December last year, and I'm already looking for my next place. 12. To go a week without showering, instead bathing in the sea regularly like the glorious mermaid I aspire to be. 13. To get on my bike without a destination in mind. 14. To sleep the entire way through the night. 15. To share something that isn't necessarily perfect or even finished. 16. To be something that isn't necessarily perfect or even finished. 17. To hug someone that I have never hugged before. 18. To make a good enough new friend that this isn't weird. 19. To fail at least one of these and for that to be okay. 20. To have an unexpectedly amazing day. It was an anniversary in January, as it is every year, and I wrote a poem for Grace because Well, there was a scene in When Harry Met Sally where he says that at the start of a relationship you shouldn't sort of drive your partner to the airport because at some point you won't want to do that anymore and it will become a source of resentment and it will become a sort of tangible example of the decline in the romance in the relationship. And on a completely unrelated note, I wrote Grace a poem for our first anniversary and then for our second anniversary and then we had some more anniversaries. And so this year I was trying to sort of make up for the deficit and I started writing something and I was trying to go for the sort of vibes of Dust, the kind of sort of earnest and sweet poem, and for whatever reason the more romantic I tried to make it, the more ridiculous puns started coming into my head and sort of attempting to ruin this very lovely poem. And so what I had to do was I had to create a separate sort of burner poem to put all of these stupid lines in so that I could preserve the sanctity of the original. And then what happened was that I then became a lot more proud of myself for the second poem than the first poem. So I sort of presented both to Grace and I've now come to realise that love is ridiculous and it is all of the above. It makes no sense to try and compartmentalise it in that way. So I've now reformed the poem as one and I would like to share it with you. And if you want a sort of fun sub-game, see if you can guess which parts came from which sides. It's pretty obvious. Our love, your love, is old t-shirts and songs I know the words. As soon as I am with you, I feel safe. You help me try to be the greatest version of myself. I plan to spend this lifetime doing just the same. It's like the floor is lava, how you set my soul on fire. You're a sourdough and canal boat, you're all I need. Like my reusable water bottle, I am lost without you. Like sticky toffee pudding, you're delicious. Like .ping files, I enjoy what you stand for. Like the sound of seagulls fighting, you make me feel like home. Like the price of advanced train tickets, I love to talk about you. Like Pumba riding solo, I do not need to know. The furrow of your brow when you are reading. The nuzzle of your nose into my neck. The way your eyes light up when you eat chocolate. Everything about you is the best. Like the voice of David Attenborough, I can't picture life without you. Like a reluctant rugby player, I don't even want to try. Like a rock climbing enthusiast, you help me to feel bolder. Like the fact Tom Cruise is 61, you're always on my mind. You're my favourite place to cry, you are my favourite place to nap. Our love is a supply teacher, it can take many forms. You're very understanding when I dribble on your lap. Like sticky toffee pudding, you're delicious and warm. In front of you is the one time that I feel sexy. Except that summer when I ran loads and got really fit and tanned. Then had a rap battle in September and they said I looked like I was on heroin. You still somehow managed to pull it back. Then a well-meaning Australian dentist slid into my Instagram DMs and said she's enjoying the poetry videos, but on closer inspection is worried I might have gum disease. It even made me feel good after that. When I'm curled up in a ball and cannot function, you somehow know exactly what to do. When all I see is disaster at every junction, you always find a way to pull me through. The murmur as you start to fall asleep mid-conversation. Although I know you have dropped off because you don't laugh at my joke. The fact that right now you are thinking that can't be the explanation because when you are awake you also don't laugh at my joke. When you don't know what you want, or who you are, or what to do, I know exactly what I want, and that's to spend my days with you. I know everything's about to change forever, but then again, everything always is. Was it not everything changing that meant we ended up together, whatever's next? I know we'll never not have this. And I know this poem will not be your favourite. That honour is reserved for Bon James Bond. You may think those lofty heights will never be eclipsed. It's through a lifetime trying to prove you wrong. When it's all up in the air, we will learn to forward style. When everything's at sea, I will be with you in that storm. When we're coming into land, just let me hold you for a while. Like sticky toffee pudding. You are warm. Thank you so much. I love Leeds. I genuinely love it. I've been here a few times recently. I did a tour in sort of 2021, 2022, and played at the left back. And I'm doing a new tour in May, and I've got a couple more dates there. So if you all wanted to come and bring 6 friends each, that would be a day. Sometimes scaling up. But when that tour finished, that was the first time since COVID that it felt like things were firing on all cylinders again. And I loved it so much, and I'd missed it, and it was a really healing, cathartic process for me to be able to be in rooms sharing times with people. Without you, this doesn't really work. And so when that finished, it was then very tempting to go straight back into it. But I knew that what I needed more than anything was to have some time away from that and to try and write just for the fun of it and for the love of it. And so sort of having made the active decision to not go straight back into gigging, me and Grace went interrailing for a couple of months, and this is a list of things I learned from that process. The tiramisu tastes best when it is eaten for breakfast. The lemon sorbet tastes best eaten straight out of a lemon. That there are lemon trees in Italy that are growing from orange seeds. Once the roots are strong enough, a lemon shoot is grafted onto the top. The next time somebody tells me I should be grafting more, I would choose to understand it as letting somebody else support. The hexagons occur in nature from circles being squished together. But I can be physically fit and mentally still fragile as ever. I think I might just be this way forever. That it is easier to learn to like anchovies than it is to learn the Spanish for why do these olives have anchovies in them. That my belief in having cultural experiences is stronger than my belief in vegetarianism. Especially when it comes to fresh fish in Corfu, or a bratwurst in a German beer garden, or a ham and cheese sandwich in a bus station in Bulgaria. That you can't spell funicular railway without fun. That the harder the climb, the better the view, unless there is an option of a funicular railway. That if you pay €130 for a bunk bed on a sleeper train, you absolutely get your money's worth. If you pay €3 for a seat in a compartment of 6 on a sleeper train, you absolutely get your money's worth. That a 30-kilometre loop around a Hungarian lake is a bold choice for the first time you ride a tandem together. And consequently, the last time you ride a tandem together. That after 5 hours of walking through the woods, when the Romanian locals tell you there are bears nearby, it sounds like just because they are laughing does not mean they are joking. When an Italian hairdresser points to your sideburns and asks if you want your eyebrows trimmed, it is hard to know what to say. His English is still a lot better than your Italian. When he corrects himself and apologises to say he meant to say sideburns but got distracted by your massive overgrown eyebrows, you will allow him to trim both. That the food I will miss most will be McCoy's salt and vinegar crisps, Thai sweet chili sensations, and nice and spicy meat. But most crisps in Europe are simply original flavour, which when you think about it isn't very original at all. But when a gig in Romania offers travel expenses, they do not necessarily mean a 2-month interrail pass. It is worth a try. It is always worth a try. That on your first morning in Cologne, when a man named Christoph tells you he quit his job to set up a clothes shop because you have to live your life, it will be the most pragmatic and profound thing you hear all trip, and definitely the most German. You can meet up with an old school friend for the sole reason that you're both in the same city, even though you lived in the same city back home for 6 years and never That you can't lick the walls in a salt mine, but also you can't not. That no matter how scenic a view is from a train window, sometimes nothing is as beautiful as a nap. That it turns out aperitivo just means serve every drink with tiny snacks, and it is perfect. A 10,000-kilometre pilgrimage for a Portuguese custard tart is entirely worth it. That when you comment on how every place you stay in has an incredible shower, as something you have to accept, it might just be leave a shower back home. It's not very this was something you could only do when you were 21 and carefree, but it turns out you can also do it when you were 31 and a bit wobbly. You can get from Barcelona to Margate by train in a day. You were the first person ever to be excited by going that way. But as long as I have a poem to be getting on with, I'm okay. Then instant camera might just be the best birthday present yet. The days that start the worst can end up the best. That not everything has to go in a poem, but there is a poem in everything. That nothing beats the feeling of crying with laughter. The fireflies are real and they are actually made of magic. That sometimes it is impossible not to smile. But it is always worth a try. That you have to live your life. Thank you so much. I am at a stage in life where lots of my friends are either having kids or want to have kids or definitely don't want to have kids and are sick of everyone else having kids. It's very present, and for lots of people that is a joyful process. But having more conversations really than me, how it feels more complicated. So this poem is about that, I guess. It's simply called Trying. I have this friend who is trying to have a baby. Although trying might not quite be the right word. To begin with, it just meant more sex and counting. Two of life's greatest things. Or as their partner put it, they were no longer trying not to have it. Becomes not wanting to plan anything more than 9 months in advance just in case. Becomes making the most of this Christmas or summer as a two because soon everything's going to change. Becomes two parallel realities coexisting the moment a period's late. Becomes making the most of doing the things they can no longer do when they do have a baby. Becomes if they do have a baby. Becomes there's always next month. Becomes I guess we just have to keep having sex. Becomes feeling guilty about that 1 month they were relieved it hadn't happened. They were just really looking forward to their friend's wedding in September. Becomes you wouldn't want it to be born around Christmas anyway, you just end up getting loads of joint presents. Who wants to have to compete with Jesus for attention? And it is trying. And they are trying. But trying suggests they could be trying harder. Suggests they are not trying hard enough. Suggests they are trying and failing. And some see it as insane to keep trying the same thing and expect different results, but they honestly don't know what else to do. At some point, trying becomes aching, becomes longing, becomes praying, and in some ways is the ultimate act of faith. Maybe hope is the best word. It often is. Because hope still comes with doubt. I'm just hoping that their hope does not run out. You see, my friend is hoping to have a baby. Or they have. Perhaps isn't quite the right word. In German, one of my favourite verbs is machen. It means to carry out, to make, or to do. Because it sounds like make, my German flatmate interchanged the two leading into glorious turns of phrase such as, will we make party tonight? To which the only acceptable answer is,
Yeah.
in English, you take a photo. In German, you make a photo. In English, you go on holiday. In German, you make a holiday. In English, you have indecision. In German, you don't. In English, when you finish work, you clock off or sign out. In German, you fire up and whack. Literal translation, make party. As in, you decide when you're ready to transition from work to play. In English, you have fun. In German, you make fun. It feels less concerned with ownership and more with creativity, as I think we all should be. What I'm saying is my friend isn't hoping to take or have a baby. I think they'd really like to make or machen a baby. I have this friend who is hoping to make a baby. With a friend, it tends to not be the right word. More like friends. There is the friend who told me 4 years ago that they thought that now was their time. And then they hadn't mentioned it since, so I figured that maybe they just changed their mind. The friend whose partner isn't against it but wants to wait before thinking of kids, and yet her body is different to his, so she is not sure she can live with that risk. The friend who takes folic acid tablets every day to help prep for her bones to be strong. But you've been trying to be strong for 2 years, you can only hold these things lightly for so long. Or the friend who would be such a brilliant mom, according to everybody that she knows. She just thought that she would have a partner by now and doesn't want to do this alone. Or the friends who both wanted kids for a while, both committed to try IVF, but had to spend £25,000 privately before they could apply to the NHS because they are both women. And that's the only way to prove that they are trying. That they are trying. They are all trying and aching and longing and praying. I have these friends who are hoping to make a baby. Or the baby isn't the right word. Because of course babies are cute. In the way that kittens are cute. In the way that miniature bottles of shampoo are cute. But most of my friends that do have babies are exhausted. And having friends that do have babies is ideal because you get to have a cuddle and then give them back. Without that paralysing fear of them discovering new ways to die. Or the fact the only way they know how to communicate is to cry, and they have learned to scream at a specific pitch that cuts through to your soul, and all you have learned is a growing list of things that you cannot control. And I get that it must come with waves of unconditional love, but it just seems relentless. And anyway, surely the best bit's the next bit. You're not just making a baby, but a child. And they have not only learned to walk and talk, but to run down the street chanting your name. And if you do anything they think is funny, they will ask you to do it again and again, forever. And in any given situation, they would rather play than chat. And I will be honest, I am 31 and I still feel like that. When they're at that age, they do not have fun, they make fun. Then I assume you muddle through the teenage years. Until one day they will tell you they want to be a doctor so they can help people. And you will say that that sounds like a good idea. Then a few years later they will say they have changed their mind. But they want to switch from medicine to maths so have more times to write poems. And you say, yeah, it actually sounds a lot better. And way more useful to society as well. Well, you cannot possibly know how it turns out. You will still be there when they cry. And it will still cut through to your soul. And you will have added to your list 1,000 times over of things that you cannot control. And there will come a time when you can no longer go wherever they go, but you know as long as you can watch them grow, you will still grow. And when they value creativity over ownership, maybe attempt to marry them every now and then, you will know that some of that is down to you, and you'll make sure they know you are so proud of them, because you are not just making a baby or a child, but a life. I have these friends who are hoping to make a life. And so am I. Which at this point maybe won't come as a surprise. I guess the giveaway was mentioning sex and counting in the sentence. And yet out of all of the friends that I mentioned, almost all talked about it in passing. And only one of those friends is a guy I've messaged about it since, asking him for whatever reason he doesn't reply, but I am trying to talk about it. And I am trying to hold it lightly. And I am trying to not get my hopes up. I quite like getting my hopes up. When I hear somebody say that they are expecting a baby, whereas that's what I've been doing for years now. And when friends ask me if I do have kids, I say I have got 3 incredible nieces and 3 amazing godsons and 1 other godson. Well, that having friends with their kids is ideal because you get to have a cuddle and then give them back, but one day I would love to be the one you give them back to. And when friends do announce they are pregnant, I am genuinely thrilled for them. Except for that couple that joked it was an accident because they weren't really trying when so many of us are trying, and I secretly hope their baby is born with weirdly big hands or something. Then I meet them, and they're perfect. I guess that's okay. And I am so grateful to the friends who knew what we were going through and so were sensitive to us in sharing their incredible life. Especially the friend who 4 years ago said they thought now was their time, because now is their time. Even if it means that when I message, it takes a while to reply. But the best is the friend with the 1-year-old, who she obviously loves the best. And yet she says that she cannot help wondering what her life would be like without kids, how it must be nice. And it is. Grace says the hardest part is the not knowing. Being stuck in the in-between of now and might never come to me. But the truth is right here, right now. I know that my life does not feel incomplete. And whichever reality that we end up in, I am so grateful that Grace is with me. Well, I cannot possibly know how it turns out. I still think I'm being tricked. Well, I guess there's no way to know. But I have these friends, and I have hope. I am already making it life. Or at least, I am trying. Thank you so much. I wrote that because a couple of reasons, I guess. One is that it is something that I haven't found many people talk about, at least while it is happening, so wait till it's resolved or unresolved. Secondly, I think it's good to challenge stereotypes about mathematicians and having sex. This next poem is I love wellies. That is a statement of fact. Footwear designed for making a splash. No need for showing off status or cash, no laces or faff, just I like big boots and I cannot lie, these babies come back. On first glance as basic as paying your tax, yet that's still more outrageous than Bezos than hat, but it's sensible, functional, playful and flat. Put them up against tennis shoes, it's game set. They just do what they do, not concerned with self-importance. All soul and no tongue, the opposite of Piers Morgan. But for the outdoors, opposite of Piers Morgan. They're not about to fall apart at any given moment. From farmers through to festivals, so grand is their appeal. The only footwear guaranteed to be outstanding in its field. While veteran shoemakers may disagree, I think it's worth a mention. It's just a load of old cobblers, so pay no attention. You could be winging it or wanging it. The welly is the one. If you've got booties on your footies, chances are you're having fun. Because any welly-based activity is celebrating life. You don't wear wellies to a funeral. God, I ask you to for mine. They're a statement piece. That statement is, I don't want soggy feet. Beyond that, it can be anything that you want it to be. So to my godson who's got some all covered in dinosaurs, or my niece who underneath her knees has nothing but unicorn. As you grow older and the world begins to open up to you, you might expect that it's reflected in your choice of welly boots. Well, for the ladies, who are maybe looking for a fun design. I have seen bumblebees or daisies or some multicolored stripes, and for the fellas, if you want to make your mark upon the scene, the options are a fetching black or an incredibly dark green. Because what could be more masculine than blending in with dirt? And if you don't see me, you might not see I'm filled with pain and hurt. And if you don't conform to gender norms or simply try to ignore them, if you're anything above size 6, you're destined to be boring. Because if they're just going to get muddy, what is the point of even trying? Why have dreams when just like us, they're only going to end up dying? If you never dip your toe in, there is no concern with drying. Who needs waterproofs if you can simply stop yourself from crying? I mean, God forbid that one might have a form of self-expression. Why not blend in instead with 1 in 8 that have depression? Why be happy when you could be a statistic or a lesson? Why do anything ever if it starts to make you question? If we protect ourselves from all those risky things emotions do, it can be easy to forget that joy is an emotion too. So is grief. So is heartbreak. So is happiness and rage. But there's a whole spectrum that we miss out on if we don't engage. And I've tried so very hard to hold it in. Now I'm lonely. And I've tried so very hard to hold it in, and I'm tired. And I've tried so very hard to hold it in. But we are not wellies made with an impermeable skin. You see, it did not do me good. Stood in a field of deepest green. When it's a basic human need to simply feel like you've been seen, and so even if this world insists it's safer to be duller, I would rather take that risk and live life playfully than colour. Sure enough, last Christmas morning, wrapped up underneath the tree, a pair of size 10 welly boots as bright and yellow as can be. They bring a whole new meaning to you, saving up for a rainy day, because if the skies are grey, we walk in on sunshiny and white. And when it's messy and it's muddy, I don't know where to begin. I'd still rather be out in the rain than trying to rein it in, and if I ever go on Dragon's Den, this poem is my pitch. But until then, next time you'll see me, as I'm climbing out that When I first wrote that poem, it felt like one of the most sort of vulnerable things I've ever written, and now it feels like sort of like a fun in between time. So I think that just gives you an idea of the emotional journey I've been on in the last 18 months. This next poem, is everyone alright?
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. This next poem is called Sunflowers, and I wrote it because in September last year I went to 2 funerals in quick succession of two of my wife's grandparents, and they were people who I had only got to know later on in their life, and I loved getting to hear about their full, incredible lives, and people who knew them at different stages and just sort of coming together to celebrate them. And I'm aware that a lot of people don't like funerals and look at you weirdly if you say you're looking forward to it, but I think there is something about celebrating one another that I think we should take any excuse we get, ideally while people are still here with us, but if not, it feels important. And so I came away from that and I started planning my own funeral, because that's the very one I come to do it. So this poem is some thoughts I had about what I would like to happen when I'm done. Ideally, I would like 100 benches, every single one of them facing the sea. If that's too much faff, I'd settle for the one somewhere in Margate, somewhere you can come and sit and think and be. And I don't need a fancy pot to keep my ashes. Just find a decent spot where there's a breeze. So the next time someone gasps at all the wonder in the world, a part of them is breathing in and part of me. And for my funeral, I'd like there to be sunflowers, a truly inconvenient amount. For I too will have spent a lifetime searching for the light, and I don't see a reason why this should stop now. Wear what you want. If it were me, I'd go for trainers or buttons. Something comfortable and colourful to match. For as it was foretold by the prophets Jamie Tarts, dress shoes are for muggles and for twats. For the reading, I'd like Erin's poem about final moments. Maybe this poem should be read for context too. For the wake, for the music, nothing short of a full-throated sing-along of my favourite song, Dynamite by Teo Cruz. For the food, just keep it veggie. For the drink, serve up Negronis. If I pretend to like them, you can do the same. And for the wake, if people want to chat, then I'm all for that, but just in case, make sure a corner's stacked with games. And don't let anyone apologise for crying. It is honestly my favourite thing to take. Just make sure everybody knows how much I've loved being alive. The only thing that I loved more was loving you. Speaking of which, if you are free, then I would love for you to be there. But if you can't, because you're dead, that's not your fault. To be honest, neither of us quite makes sense without the other. I still think we'll die together like a cult. And if anybody says I have gone to a better place, that is a kind and very well-intentioned lie. For there can be no better place than in a room with all my friends. Just promise we'll do this again the other side. Side note, let's also do this loads before we die. And by the point it comes around, maybe I'd hate it. I'll live for ages and these tastes will change with time. The one thing that I know that I will always find amazing is what a thing it is to live in life. P.S. Let's also do this loads before we die. Thank you so much. And yeah, I'm going on tour from May onwards, so 16th and 17th on the left bank, and that show is called Wonderful, and I'll have a new book out alongside that with lots of these poems in, and it is named after this next poem. And I think what happened was that when I did my last show, as I said, it was very cathartic for me. It was essentially coming to terms with the mental health struggles that I had during lockdown, and feeling like I lost myself and then sort of found myself again. So I thought the broad plan was for this show and all of the poems to just be a really fun, happy time to celebrate coming through that. And that's not always how life works, but I think I used to believe that life is full of good and bad things, and if you give oxygen to the good things, they can outgrow the bad things, and that would be what takes over. But I really appreciate that you can't just ignore things that you don't like, and so I think what makes life so precious is that it is all of the above, and it is thinking about death that can make you appreciate life, or it is the puddles that make you appreciate the wellies, and so I've tried to hold that together even when it feels like it doesn't make sense, and so this poem is called Wonderful, and I was going to go up to the Edinburgh Fringe in August and then tour it sort of from September, but recently found out that Grace is pregnant. And so baby is due in August, which is very impractical for the Fringe. This is the first time I have performed the trying poem since that's happened, so I hope it didn't feel weird. But this poem is hopefully the first of many that I'm written for the world. And it's called Wonderful, and it's as much for myself as I can. May you always picture where you are as where you're meant to be. May you take in your surroundings like you visited a specialist. We all end up in the soil eventually. So may you carry such goodness that it nourishes for centuries. May you see life as a show, and may the entry fee be empathy, sat front row with an empty seat for friends and me. And when you're on form, be generous and spread that energy. And when you're not sure, be gentle with yourself and don't forget to breathe. You need not be defined by your many feats. You are not a centipede. There is a joy in doing something terrible. May you share bruise and bruises, and may you do this tenderly. You are the most improved you there has ever been. Of all the words you'll ever hear, remember these. Life is too short to eat celery. Life is too long to feed jealousy. And life is likely just the right length to need therapy. May you be seriously silly. May you be wickedly kind. May you be brilliantly dumb sometimes and yet stupidly bright. May you certainly have doubts. May your weirdness be the norm. May the coolest thing about you be your warmth. May you be powerfully vulnerable, or at least mightily soft. May you be a contradiction and yet at the same time not. And whether you are any, none, or all of the above all, may you know that you are loved. May you understand that it's okay to change your mind, particularly if your views are not the same as mine. May you always make room for playfulness. It may just save your life, and know whatever makes your heart grow cannot be a waste of time. It may not make you money. It may not even make sense. But if it makes you happy, it is worth it in the end, and it is worth it at the time, and it deserves your very best, and you are never too busy to catch your breath. Just as you cannot be in traffic without being in traffic. Life is not something that you are stuck in while it happens. There is more in you than you can possibly imagine. The very fact that you exist makes everything a bit more magic. And when it all feels too much, there is little you can do. May you still see the best in people, and may people include you. May one thing match the gravity of all you've ever done. This wonderful reality. The best is yet to come. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Robin. I've run out of books, but I haven't run out of capacity for love. So if you want to come and say hi, but otherwise, hopefully see you at the left bank, or I'll be putting all of my talks online, and definitely come back and check out more of these. I realised you were put on the spot earlier, and you just wanted to mull it over, and now you've all decided you will definitely come back every month forevermore. When we were talking about how long to do, Alan said like a couple of 40-minute halves, brackets plus an encore, and I didn't know if he was joking or not, and I don't have the confidence to walk off. Back, nor do I want to like sort of pretend or beg, so it's like this is the encore now. And someone in the interview asked if I would do this poem, and I'm not sure. This poem is called 59, and it's about prime numbers.
Yes!
And I don't know if the person who requested it sort of was 59, but I know like it's very young. 53, come on. All I know is that they were younger than 66. Decaying in front of my eyes. So, I for ages told myself that the poetry and maths were two separate things. That I like maths because there were definite right answers, and I like poetry because there was a freedom and a creativity. And I've realised that for me, both of them are about trying to figure stuff out. And I think the best way to do that is to give yourself permission to be playful and to make mistakes. You never quite know where it's going to go. I think that playfulness is always a worthwhile thing. And I think that the thing they have both taught me more than anything is to pay attention to the world around you and to find the beauty in it. And it is often the nerdiest people that I know that get most excited about the fact that today is the 22nd of February. 2 years ago it was the 22nd of February 2022, and the whole day was a palindrome, and maths world just lost their minds. And it was on a Tuesday, so it became known as Tuesday, and I get emotional thinking about it. So that of wonder, and I wrote a film about it, and I got asked to go on the radio to talk about it, and the guy who interviewed me just said sort of like, who cares? And I care. And I know that lots of people care, and I think it's such a privilege to be curious and to go through life excited about things, no matter how weird and nerdy they are, whether they are postcode related or not. So this poem was the first time I fully embraced the poetry and the maths together, I guess. And it's a love poem, and it goes. 59 wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. Realizes all his hair is on one side of his head, takes just under a minute to work out that it's because of the way that he slept. He finds some clothes and gets dressed. He can't help but look in the mirror and be subtly impressed how he looks rough around the edges and yet casually messed. As he glances out the window, he sees how he is blessed with a 60 from across the street. Now 60 was beautiful. Perfectly trimmed cuticles, dressed in something suitable and never rude or crude at all. Unimprovable. Right on time as usual, more on cue than a snooker ball, but like to play it super cool. 59 wanted to tell her that he knew her favourite flower. He thought of her every second, every minute, every hour, but he knew it would not work. He would never get the girl because the lodge lived across the street. They came from different ones. 59, my 60s, perfectly round figure. 60 thought 59 was you see, one of his favourite films was 101 Dalmatians. She preferred the sequel. He romanticised the idea they were star-crossed lovers. They could overcome the odds and evens because they had each other, while she maintained the strict wisdom bestowed on her by her mother that separate could not be equal. And though at the time he felt stupid and dumb, trying to love a girl controlled by her stupid mum, she'd been comforted by that simple son at 59, away from 60, he left with the one. And sure enough, after 2 months of moping around, 61 days later, 61 was who he found. He had lost his keys and his parents were out, so he wandered off school. He went to a house as he noticed the slightly wonky numbers on the door. He wondered why he never introduced himself before. She let him in, his jaw dropped in awe. 61 was like 60, with a little bit more. See, she had prettier eyes and an approachable smile. And like him, rough around the edges, casual style. And like him, everything's in disorganized piles. And like him, one of my friends stayed a while, she was like him. And he liked her. He reckoned she might like him if she knew he was like her, and it was different this time. I mean, this girl was wicked, so he plucked up the courage and asked for her digit. She said, I'm 61. He grinned. Said, I'm 59. Today I've had a really nice time. Tomorrow, if you wanted, you could come for tomorrow. She said, sure. She loved talking to someone just as quirky. So she agreed to this unofficial first date. In the end, she was only ready 1 minute early. It didn't matter because she arrived 1 minute late. So from that moment on, there was non-stop chatting. How they loved X Factor, how they had 2 factors, how that did not matter. Distinctiveness made them better. By the end of the night, they were laying together, and one day she was talking about stuck up 60. She noticed that 59 looked a bit shifty. He blushed and told her of his crush, the best thing that never happened because it led to us. 61 was clever, see, not prone to jealousy. She looked him in the eyes and she told him quite tenderly, you're 59, I'm 61, together we combine to become twice what 60 could ever be. And at this point, 59 had tears in his eyes. He was so glad to have this one-of-a-kind girl in his life. He told her the very definition of being proud on himself, his heart divided, and she was the one he wanted to give his heart to. She said she felt the same, and now she knew the films were half true because that was not real love. That love was just his son. When it came to real love, they were